Hello everyone, my name is Maya Cornish and I am the Viewpoints editor of the 2020-21 school year. So today I'll be giving you some basics of InDesign, and it's easier to show you than to explain it to you all in a really lengthy text document. So you open up InDesign, well, you need to create your document. So you go to Create New. Make sure that your units are in inches, portrait orientation, facing pages, great. Then your width is 8.25 inches and your height is 10.75 inches. This is the Odyssey magazine format. Then you can have however many pages as you want, and if you are a section editor, I highly suggest for you that you have all of your staffers' layouts in a single InDesign document for each cycle instead of having one InDesign file for each staffer for each cycle, because that'll make it very messy and a little bit disorganized for you to try and find it all. And then start number is how many pages are shown in each row, which you'll be able to see in just a second. So if I have 5 pages, I have 2 in the first row, 2 in the second row, and then 1 in the third row. Make sure your columns is at 6. And then your bleed in slug, your bleed is at 0.125 and your slug is at 0. So if you want, like, as you can see, these are linked, which means that if you change one, you change all of them at once, easy peasy. When it's unlinked, then you only change one at a time instead of having all of them change at once. But again, slug 0, bleed 0.125, and after that, push create. So now our document is pulled up, and as you can see, our start number is 2. So then there's another 2, and then there's one more. But say you want to add a page. You don't have enough that you initially planned for. So you go down here, you push create new page. Great, now you have 6 pages. But say you don't need that many pages, you only needed 2. Then you can click on these and push the trash can towards the bottom. So now I only have 2. And these right here are your page properties, your document properties. So your width, your height, and here are your rulers and grids. So if you want, this helps you be super exact in your placement of your elements. So here is your general ruler. So 2 inches, 4 inches, 6 inches, great. 8 inches. And that helps keep everything to scale for you so you have a point of reference. If you want to be super exact and know exactly where you're putting things instead of relying on the smart guide, you can push on document grid, and then you can have all these little itty bitty squares. I prefer to have my document grid on towards the end of my design process instead of towards the beginning, because I'm just finalizing things and making sure that things are put in the exact place that I want them to be, whereas in the beginning I just want to figure out where I just want to put things and rely a bit more on smart guides. So as you can see, we have a whole bunch of tools, and which ones do you use? Which one do you really need to know about? So this one is your selection tool. It is essentially your mouse. It helps you move things around, click on things, etc. This is your type tool. So it creates a box specifically for you to type text in, edit text, things like that. This is your image frame tool, essentially your rectangular frame. It has 3 different settings: rectangle, ellipse, and polygon. We primarily use the rectangle frame tool, and when it's selected, its mouse looks like this. And then here is your color theme tool. It helps get a color swatch from an image. So then instead of having red, green, blue when you're coloring your headlines and your pull quotes, it brings out colors that provide a nice theme of that spread that go along with the photo, so then it is very pleasing to the eye. Some useful windows that you'll need to know about. This is your layers tool. As we add things, we will be able to see text right here. This is your links. So when we're adding images, we're literally linking them to a file on our computer. So it'll show up. And if an image is not linked properly, whereas you got a photo from, say, your desktop and you linked it, but then you move that photo to a folder, you need to relink it so then it has the correct location, or else it won't, or else your document won't save. You'll be very confused. This is your color window. So if you have a specific color that you want to use, we typically don't use this, but there's 3 different options of color input. This one's lab, CMYK, and RGB. CMYK is the color system of printers, but we typically don't use it. We usually use the swatch tool. So here are some very basic colors: red, yellow, green. Later on, when we use the color theme tool, I can show you how to add a swatch that you found from a photo and add it to here so that you have it for easy access. Then this is your text wrap window. So when you want to have a certain distance from, say, a text box or a photo, and just have it uniform instead of having to rearrange all your text boxes and they fit just right, it's easier just to have the text wrap and the problem solved for you. So those are your primary windows and tools. So the first thing that we're going to do is insert a photo. So we're going to select on our rectangle frame tool, just put in a random little square, and when you're inserting your photo, you do Control D, go to wherever you have your photo. So for me, it's on my desktop, and I'm going to be using this one, which, surprise, it's a picture of me. Yeah. So it looks weird, right? So make sure you have your selection tool on. As you can see, there are 2 circles and there's a little hand. So you can move it around, things like that. Super fun, but again, it looks weird. The box isn't big enough for the photo. And as you saw the red lines, the photo is quite big. So I have 2 options. One, I can just manually move the box around, or I can choose the easy way out and do fitting. So right click on the photo, go to fitting. So I can do fill frame proportionally so that the photo moves to adjust to the frame proportionally so that it doesn't look all stretched out and weird. Whereas if I do fit content proportionally, see what happens. It's very similar to fill frame, but primarily what we do is fill frame proportionally. But it always has to have proportionally in it. You can also do fit frame to content. So instead of having it like this and like that, super small, so we know how big the image is. But we need the frame, the little blue lines around it, to fit it. So fit frame to content, great. But one thing you never ever use is fit content to frame. Because then, as you can see, it just made it all squished and weird. It's gross. So let's Control Z, undo that. And there we go. So here's a quick design tip. One of the things that you can do with design is you can just have a whole image that takes up, well, say, the first part of the screen. So I'm going to move it down a little bit. So when you're doing that, make sure that your photo is aligned with the red line, not the page itself. No,